I looked at every single Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce novelty prop bet for the Super Bowl, and I was able to come up with my 5 favorite. I did the research, so you don't have to. For those of you that have been living under a rock, or you might not have heard by now, Taylor Swift is a pretty famous person in the world. She is dating a football player. That football player happens to be very good and playing in the Super Bowl. So what the sportsbooks did, of course, was come up with a bunch of novelty prop bets that somehow involved Travis Kelce and also somehow involved Taylor Swift, mostly the lyrics or the names of her songs. There are a ton of these prop bets out there. As I mentioned, I was able to find my 5 favorite that I actually did lock in, that I will recommend you guys lock in as well if you're looking for a little bit of a different way to have fun with the Super Bowl. But before I actually give you the picks, I would appreciate it if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. All that stuff helps me out a ton. If you are new here, what I normally do on this YouTube channel is give out my favorite NBA player props, NFL player props, and over MLB season, it's home runs. A lot of profits doing so. Hopefully people that are regulars can comment and confirm. To the new people, that we have been very profitable with these bets. So I would recommend subscribing. And then of course for this video, if you could comment, all that stuff does help me out a ton. And we can get into it. So before I actually, we can get right into it. But before I actually give you the 5 picks, I just want to show you where you can find them on the actual sports books, so you know exactly where to look. So the 2 books that I have props that we're locking in on are on DraftKings and ESPN Bet. So as of right now, I'm on the homepage for DraftKings. All you need to do to find the Kelce and Swift novelty props, go to NFL, click Super Bowl specials, and then you'll see this little menu here. Scroll all the way to the right, and you will see for the Swifties. And then there are a bunch of different options here, as you can see. When you are on ESPN Bet, all you need to do is go to ESPN Bet. Again, we are on the main homepage. Don't go to the game. Click Specials. And then as you can see right here, Swelcy Specials. Very, very punny. Nice wordplay from ESPN Bet. But that's how you can find both of the markets. Now let's get to these picks. So let's get into it. This first one is definitely my favorite one as well. We're looking at Mahomes, 15 plus rushing yards combined with 215 plus passing yards as well. DraftKings is offering this to us at -140, and I put a full unit on this bad boy. A unit means 1% of your bankroll, so I risked 1.4 units to win 1. This is definitely my favorite one. The value on here was incredible. I tried to research all of these plays as much as I could to kind of give you the value, the expected value, and all that stuff. For context, Mahomes, I couldn't find the exact parlay of 15 rushing and 215 passing. The closest I could get was I was able to parlay on the books over 17.5 rushing yards and parlay that with over 219.5 passing yards. And the true line on that is at -255. So not only are we getting significantly better odds at -140, but we're also getting a lower rushing total and a lower passing total as well. So from a strictly EV perspective, this one looks really good. And both plays individually, obviously they're a little bit watered down. They look really good as well. We can start with the rushing. So Mahomes' mainline rushing total is 25.5. So he would need to miss this over under by a full 10 yards in order for him not to hit the rushing portion. In all 3 playoff games this year, Mahomes has cashed it. 41 against the Dolphins, 19 against the Bills, and 15 against the Ravens. And keep in mind, the Bills and Ravens game were close. That includes kneel downs that limit his rushing total at the end of the game. But if you take out those kneel downs, he was able to clear it with ease. Now, if you look at last year, technically Mahomes was only able to cash it in the Super Bowl. But you have to remember how the playoffs went for the Chiefs last year. In their first playoff game, in the second half, Mahomes sprained his ankle pretty badly against the Jaguars, so he missed part of the second half while he was getting treatment, and then he was clearly hampered by it, except for like one last run at the end of the game when he got pushed out of bounds against the Bengals. So he missed it in those 2 games. Had 2 weeks off, then he cashed it in the Super Bowl. Back to 2021, when the Chiefs lost in the AFC Championship game to the Bengals, he cashed it in all 3 games with 29, 69, very nice, and 19 rushing yards. So the rushing prop, I'm very, very confident it's going to hit. And the passing prop, I'm very confident that one's going to hit as well. His mainline passing yards for this game is all the way up at 259.5, pretty much across the board. He would need to miss it by over 40 yards to miss the 215 passing yards. And another way I like to look at value is just look at what books would price this individual play. No book is offering you to bet on 215 or more passing yards. The closest I could find was you could find markets for him to have 220 or more passing yards, and those are priced at minus 315. So individually, this one looks really good as well. Mahomes has played 17 playoff games in his career. He's cashed this in every single game except for 2. One of the games he missed was that Jags game that I mentioned last year when he got hurt in the middle of the game, was clearly hampered by that injury. And the other game he missed was in the Super Bowl last year against the Eagles. Kind of a wild game because Mahomes was awesome in that game, but he actually ran for a decent amount of yards, and the Chiefs in general, the running backs, ran for a decent amount of yards as well. In that game, because the offenses were so successful, there were so many, or the offenses had so many plays on all their drives that both teams didn't really have a ton of counting stats. Both teams held the ball for so long. But those are the only 2 that he missed. Every other game, he's had 215 or more passing yards. So passing feels pretty good. Rushing feels pretty good. Both together is phenomenal value for minus 140 odds. That's our first one. Bet number 2 of the Swelcy specials is Travis Kelce anytime touchdown. This one's at ESPN Bet, and you can get it at plus 105 odds. This one actually isn't an odds boost or anything. It's just strictly Travis Kelce to score a touchdown. And ESPN Bet is clearly mispriced when you compare the plus 105 odds to every other sportsbook. It's a great bet at ESPN Bet. No other book is giving this price for plus money. Every other book has it for minus money. DraftKings, Caesars, BetMGM all have it for minus 110 odds. So it's a really good price, strictly just from an odds perspective. And these playoffs, even after a quiet regular season for Kelce, in these playoffs, he's been phenomenal. I'm on his receptions in this game. I'm probably going to be on his yards as well. Only makes sense for me to be on him to score a touchdown. Against the Dolphins in the first playoff game, he had 7 receptions for 71 yards. No, he did not score a touchdown. He still had a great game. And then against the Bills, he had 5 receptions for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. We'll get into the double tater one, but obviously scoring twice is great. And then last week against the Ravens, he was phenomenal. 11 receptions, 116 yards, and 1 touchdown. So 3 playoff games this year, that is a total of 3 touchdowns, scoring at least 1 touchdown in 2 of those 3. In his playoff career, as I mentioned, Mahomes has 17 playoff starts. In those 17 playoff starts, Travis Kelce has scored a touchdown in 13 of those 17. Only 4 times did he not score a touchdown. And in 3 of those 4 games, he was actually phenomenal, right? If you look at his stats, he had an amazing game. I already mentioned the Dolphins one from this past year. Outside of the Dolphins one, the last time Kelce didn't score a touchdown in the playoffs was in the Super Bowl against the Bucs. Their offense got kind of smoked that game. They didn't score a single offensive touchdown. In that game, Kelce had 10 receptions for 133 yards. And then in Mahomes' first playoff game ever, Kelce had 7 receptions for 108 yards. No, he didn't score a touchdown, but still had a great game. So getting him for plus money to score a touchdown, I think, is phenomenal value, both just looking at his history with Mahomes in the playoffs and looking at it from an odds perspective as well. If we can get both of our 1-unit plays to cash, which is both of our first 2 plays, we'll be profitable and nothing will matter what happens after that, because after this one, these are a little bit more of long shot props. But let's get into the next one. Bet number 3, Travis Kelce, 87 plus receiving yards. You can get this at plus 190 odds. This one is at DraftKings. I put 3/4 of a unit on this one. So for me, 1 unit equals $100. I put $75 on this one. Another play that we are getting pretty good value from an EV, strictly positive expected value perspective. For context, FanDuel, you can pump up his receiving yards to 90 or more, and FanDuel prices that at plus 182. So not only are we getting 3 fewer yards, which, yeah, what are the chances he lands at exactly 88 or 89? Not high, but still we are getting it at a lower number, 87, 88, or 89. We're also getting it for a better price at plus 190. So the same 17-game stretch that Kelce has played with Mahomes as his quarterback, Travis Kelce has had 87 or more receiving yards in 10 of those 17 games. Now, he's only done it in 1 of 3 games so far this year, and he only did it in 1 of 3 games last year. So that means in the last 2 playoff runs for the Chiefs, he's done it in 2 of his last 6 games. So I will admit the majority of the times he hit this over was previously from these past 2 years. But I still like it because he's been playing well in these playoffs. And they're going to need to throw the ball, I'm guessing, more than they have in this game against the 49ers than they had in the previous games. I mean, the Ravens scored 10 points. The Bills' offense was phenomenal. That game was really good. Travis Kelce scored 2 touchdowns in that game. And then from a value perspective, I mentioned it's good. And I like it from the matchup as well. The 49ers can be had. Sam Laporta had 9 receptions to the tune of 97 yards against them last week. Even if the 49ers want to give a bunch of attention, all of their attention, to Travis Kelce, he just has a mind meld with Mahomes that you can't necessarily stop. Sometimes Kelce would run the wrong route and Mahomes will still hit him. Maybe Mahomes extends a play, or that the way the Chiefs are creative and how they use Kelce means that you can't just completely take him away. So in a Super Bowl matchup, I'm guessing Mahomes is going to target Kelce early and often. Hopefully he scores a touchdown and hopefully he gets us to 87 yards. That's our third play. And then the last two are real long shots, admittedly tough to assign value. Number 4, at any point in the game, the Kansas City Chiefs will have a 14-plus point lead. Again, at any point. They don't need to win by 14. Just at any point will they lead by 14 or more points. I'm putting a half unit on this one, so $50 at plus 250 odds. As I mentioned, this one is admittedly tough to assign real value from an EV perspective. So I couldn't really assign the value to see, but for 250, I thought it was worth a half unit dart throw. The 49ers have started slow in both of their playoff games this year. Obviously, everybody remembers them going down by 17 to the Lions last week. And while, yes, their biggest deficit the week prior against the Packers was only 7 points, that was a game in which they didn't look right the entire game. The Packers dropped 2 interceptions. They missed a field goal. If the 49ers play like that against the Chiefs, I'm very, very confident that the Chiefs will be up by 14 or more points at some point in the game. Same thing with last week, obviously, because it did happen. And the reason why I like this play is the Chiefs' offense has started fast in all 3 of their playoff games. Now, they might have slowed down a little bit in the second half, but when you give Andy Reid scripted plays, they will score points at the beginning. Against the Dolphins, the Chiefs scored points on 3 of their first 4 drives. They got in the Dolphins' red zone on all 3 of those scoring drives as well. Now, they did stall out on 2 of those 3 drives. They scored 1 touchdown and 2 field goals. This game isn't going to be played in negative 30-degree weather, so I'm guessing their offense won't stall out like they did in the first playoff game. Against the Bills, the Chiefs literally didn't punt until their last offensive drive, not including the very last drive of the game when they just kneeled it down. You take that away and then kneel down at the end of the half, they scored on 5 of 7 possessions. And here's how their first 5 drives went. Field goal, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Then Mecole Hardman fumbled into the end zone, so they were about to score in that one. So basically 6 times. Granted, they got the ball after a fumble early, deep in the Bills' territory, but still. 5 first drives they scored. The 6th one they were going to score until Mecole Hardman fumbled into the end zone. They only got stopped on 1 drive. So, and then against the Ravens, they scored a touchdown on their first 2 drives. And then on their 3rd drive, they had the ball. They started the drive in plus territory after another fumble, and they got it all the way down to the Ravens' 13-yard line. Then they got stopped on 4th down, and then they scored a field goal. So in all 3 games, the Chiefs' offense has started hot. In both games, the 49ers have started slow. And just because those things have happened, of course, it doesn't mean that history is going to immediately repeat itself. If it does, for plus 250 odds, I'm very confident that we're going to cash this one. And again, it's a half unit dart throw at plus 250. I think the odds are worth it. And now our 5th and final pick, the long shot of all long shots, Travis Kelce to score at least a touchdown in each half. So he has to score a touchdown in the first and in the second half. This is plus 1,000 odds. So I only put a quarter unit on this bad boy. I know we already have Travis Kelce anytime touchdown, and I gave you a bunch of stats on him to score 1 touchdown. Why not go extra spicy and bet on him to score a touchdown in each half? He's got to do it in both. So he could score, if he scores 2 touchdowns in the first half or only in the second half, this wouldn't count. Now, this is another situation it was difficult to get the true value on. All you could really do was look at his past performance and how often he scored even 2 touchdowns in a game. And then also look at where books are pricing him to score 2 touchdowns. And I did think that we're getting pretty good value at plus 100. DraftKings, ESPN Bet, all these books, they're pricing Travis Kelce to score 2 touchdowns at plus 500. Now, obviously, the risk here is that he can't just score 2. He has to do 1 in each half. But you're giving me double the odds on him to score a touchdown in each half. I think that value is pretty good, especially for a quarter unit dart throw. You risk 25 bucks and you're profiting 250. I think that value is worth it. Now, looking at his playoff career, as I mentioned, he scored at least 1 touchdown in 13 of 17 playoff games with Mahomes. He has scored at least 2 touchdowns in 4 of those games. One of those 4, he did score a touchdown in each half, and that was actually the game in which he did it this past year against the Bills. All other games in which he scored 2 touchdowns, so the other 3, he either did it all in the first or all in the second half. So in one of 17 playoff games, Travis Kelce has cashed this. So I'm certainly not going to sit here and tell you that this is a lock. Bet responsibly. I think that the value we're getting when you compare it to 2 touchdowns and the value we're getting just because of how good Kelce has been this playoff run, I think is worth it. I think it's worth a quarter unit play. And that's all we got. 5 Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift novelty props for you guys to hammer. We're being responsible with our unit sizing. We're risking just below 4 units. And if we cash all of these, we will win over 7 units. Although if we even cash the first 2 likely ones to hit, we will at least be profitable from this endeavor. So let's hope we can have a good one. Appreciate everybody for watching. This has been very fun for me to research and all that stuff. So I would appreciate it. Again, if you could like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Enjoy the game and have a good one.